Mahinda Siriwardena, speaking at the event, noted that the 3-year tenure as the Finance Secretary was the highlight of his career.
අපි කියන day-to-day firefighting කියලා.
What we experienced was what is often referred to as day-to-day firefighting. The constant struggle was about how to make payments and how to settle dues by evening, and how to manage the next day's obligations. That was the reality we were immersed in. All of us worked tirelessly without rest over the past 3 years. There have been numerous situations that were extremely stressful and mentally exhausting. In July 2023, even I fell seriously ill due to a blood clot. I did not abandon my duties. I remained committed to my responsibilities. Throughout my official work, I consistently strive to create an environment where Treasury officials could work freely and independently. As I mentioned earlier, that effort was a continuous one and one that I undertook with great determination.
ස්වාධීන වැඩ කිරීමට හැකි පරිසරයක් නිර්මාණය කරන්න මා නිතරම වෙහෙස.
What happened to Sri Lanka's economy? This is the outgoing Finance Secretary's prognosis.
අපේ රටේ පහුගිය කාලේ රාජ්‍ය මූල්‍ය විනය දැඩි ලෙස පිරිහීම තමයි මේ රටේ තියෙන මේ ඇතිවෙච්ච අර්බුදය සහ
In recent times, the most critical root cause of the crisis our country is facing and the greatest challenge we have encountered in managing it has been the severe deterioration of public financial discipline. In truth, the profound impact this has had on the national budget, the broad economy and the country's external relations is what lies at the core of this issue. This is the fundamental root cause. Our primary objective at the Ministry of Finance has been to decisively reform this area and redirect it toward a path that is sustainable and beneficial to the nation. Having had this opportunity to serve the country in this role for 3 years has been the greatest honor of my 34-year professional career. Even though the administration changed during this time, I was afforded the rare privilege of continuing in this position. Through the confidence placed in me by the leadership of the state, I extend my sincere gratitude to Your Excellency, the President and the government for that trust. I also deeply admire the maturity and discernment displayed by His Excellency the President in carrying forward the policy agenda with continuity and commitment as the country gradually returns to normalcy. When business begin to recover, children return to school, tourists start arriving once again, and daily life begins to stabilize. I have experienced a quite profound happiness that is difficult to express in words. Broadly speaking, the measures taken so far have helped bring the macroeconomic situation to a more stable footing. However, that stability should not lead us to complacency. We must continue to move forward with even greater strength and determination.
නමුත් අපේ දියුණුව පිළිබඳ තෘප්තිමත් වීමට හේතුවක් නෙවෙයි. අප තවත් ශක්තියෙන් යුතුව ඉදිරියට යා යුතුව තිබෙනවා.
Mahinda Siriwardena also reflected on the past 5 years.
මම අප්‍රේල් 8 වෙනිදා වැඩ බාර ගන්න 2022 බාරගත් දවසේ නෙවෙයි.
I assumed duties on the 8th of April in 2022. However, I must say that I became aware of the trajectory this country was heading toward not in 2022 when I officially assumed this role, but 2 years prior to that. At that time, there was no one I could confide in. I went home every day and shared my thoughts only with my wife. There was little even she could do. The psychological pressure I endured during that time still remains vivid in my memory. If I am to speak truthfully, it is not just for the past 3 years, but for 5 long years that I have suffered due to this crisis. Knowing the path the country was taking and being unable to intervene meaningfully was a deeply distressing experience. No one paid attention to what I was saying at that time. Neither the Monetary Board nor the then governors took my warning seriously. I do not hesitate to say this now. It was clearly evident, like writing on the wall, that this crisis was approaching, but the warnings were ignored. And I believe that this is why we ultimately ended up in this situation. From 2020 to this day, I may well be the senior-most official who has remained continuously engaged throughout this period. What I share with you now is based on that lived experience. It has been a profound honor of my life to serve Sri Lanka with utmost responsibility.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට සේවය කිරීමට හැකිවීම මගේ ජීවිතයේ ලද විශිෂ්ටතම ගෞරවයක්.
Mahinda Siriwardena also expressed his willingness to work towards the development of the nation.
මම මේ තරුණ විශ්‍රාම ගත්තද රටේ අඛණ්ඩ දියුණුව සහ
Although I'm retiring from this position, my belief in and vision for the continued progress of our nation and the realization of the aspirations of its people will never waver. I would also like to state that if my support is needed in the future to contribute toward that goal, I will readily and wholeheartedly extend my assistance.
ඒ ලබා දීමට මා නොපැකිලව කටයුතු කරන බව සඳහන් කරන්න කැමැතියි.
The Finance Secretary was presented with a special memento by the President in appreciation of his exemplary service.